What is the craziest thing you've overheard on a plane? These are Reddit's best answers to that question. I was flying solo into Orlando. The woman next to me was so excited about her new boyfriend's boat and was going on and freaking on about how excited she was for this trip. I nodded and put my headphones in, and about 1 minute later, she grabbed the cord on my headphone and pulled it out of my ear so she could blather on about it. I asked her if she had lost her mother frickin' mind. I'm pretty sure she had. I was sat next to a teenage boy and his dad. The kid was telling his dad about how much he loved the song Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye. When the kid was finally done talking, the dad just looked at him and said, "You're a virgin." Wow, what a dad. Not so much what he said, but I sat next to this fully grown man that was playing Plants vs. Zombies the whole 3-hour flight with incredible enthusiasm. Every time a plant got eaten or he killed a difficult zombie, he'd jump up in his seat, pump his fist, and aggressively whisper, "Yes, yes, got him, yes." Fair play, someone loves the game, I love it. Not something I overheard, but something semi-interesting nonetheless. I once went and got sushi with my mum, and I noticed a guy and a girl at another table very clearly on their first date. They were both dressed very nicely, lots of awkward laughter. The guy was being ultra gentlemanly, like pulling her chair out of her. You know, just the usual stuff that tips an observer off that they were still very much getting to know each other and wanting to make a good impression. Fast forward 2.5 years, I was boarding a plane in Atlanta, GA, heading to Colorado with my brother to go skiing when I saw the same couple seated near the back of the plane. I was in the row directly in front of them, so when I put my bag up, I turned to them and said, "This is going to be super weird, but did you guys have your first date at insert sushi restaurant?" They both got wide-eyed in shock and laughed and told me that they had in fact had their first date there. I told them I was there that night, and I just happened to recognize them when I boarded the plane. It was friendly and we chit-chatted for a bit. They were going skiing at the same place we were, so it was cool and all. Now, day 2 of our trip, my brother and I decided to go to the top of the mountain and take a few of the more advanced slopes down to the bottom. There were maybe a dozen or so people up there. And before taking off, we decided to look at the trail map to make sure we were going to get back to where the shuttle could pick us up without having to hike our gear for 2 miles. About 20 feet away from us, a guy got down on one knee and proposed to his girlfriend. Everyone clapped as she jumped up and down with excitement and said, "Yes!" They took off their helmets and goggles to kiss, and it was the same freaking couple. I literally was there for their first date, met them for the first time on a plane purely by chance as I was sitting in front of them, and was present when he proposed to her. I assume they're still married because at the rate we're going, I'm probably going to run into them again if one of them decides to file for divorce. Yeah, next up, you're going to change to become a lawyer and be there for their divorce. I mean, wow, what are the chances of all of that? Some guy told his partner that she didn't need more yarn, and every woman in earshot promptly told him how wrong he was. There we go. Straight back down to earth. You hear an amazing story about a man that's so fortunate to see the rise of a couple and be there for their engagement. And then you see this. Well, there we go. I sat in front of a kid who was about 12 or 13 and his older sister, who I assume was his guardian. It was a cross-country flight and the kid was casually talking about how he'd never flown before and he's looking forward to it. He seemed to be likely on the spectrum a bit. It's pretty wholesome so far. Then the plane starts to move and he instantly freaks all the way out, screaming, "We're all gonna freaking die! Let me off this plane! It's a freaking coffin! You're all going to die! It's going to be a freaking fireball!" etc. The stewardess comes by and tries to calm him down. The sister is talking to him in English and Spanish, trying to get him to relax. She's telling him that he's embarrassing her. She's never taking him to Puerto Rico if he keeps acting like this, etc. The guy in front of me turns around and loudly offers the kid Xanax. Finally, the hero of the story, a big southern black lady, says, "James," not his name, "Honey, I'm gonna need you to calm down, sweetie, because you're making all the rest of us real nervous right now. Okay?" Eventually, and for no noticeable reason, the kid relaxes and starts talking about how cool flying is. Like a switch, he starts looking out the window, saying things like, "Wow, the view is really cool. I feel safe now. Everything is okay after all," an audible collective sigh of relief. Where was his sister flying him to? Astronaut camp. I think about him every time I fly. I was not expecting that. Goodness me. And by the way, can we just go back a sec to the guy that just offered the kid Xanax. Fair enough. Fair enough. Not that crazy as such, but when literally about to touch down, a lady got up and started walking urgently towards the bathroom. The cabin crew immediately started saying, "Madam, we're about to land. You have to sit down." The lady responded by screaming in a panic, "I'm gonna shit myself." They allowed her to continue. Yeah, probably wise at that point. Would you rather someone be standing up when you land, or there just be poop everywhere? Well, as a flight attendant, I kind of know which one I'd go for. Two Mormon missionaries trying to convert the sweet, naive man sitting between them the entire flight. Oh my gosh, you think you got it bad enough? You've got the middle seat between two strangers. That is terrible. You know, you've not lucked out there. But then it's two Mormons trying to convert you? Goodness me, you must think that, you know, you might as well end it all at that point. What a terrible, terrible flight that must have been. I was flying to Seattle from Atlanta, and there was a baby crying for the majority of the flight. The parents were doing their best, and it really wasn't their fault, just a trashy situation. About halfway to Seattle, the man seated in front of the baby snapped and started screaming at the baby and his parents, cursing at them, saying how they're awful parents, and he's gonna beat them all, including the baby, to a pulp when they land. A flight attendant tried to ask the guy to calm down, and he said he'd also beat her up. Well, it seems like a lovely guy, is all I'll say at this point. The pilot had to come on and tell everyone to calm down, or else we had to make an early landing. We made it to Seattle, and the guy ended up having to be tackled by 4 cops at the gate because he was trying to run away after being approached by them. What a madman. I've told you many times, Brenda, I'm not shaving my balls. It's my balls, and I'm a man. Again, the duality of r/AskReddit continues to amaze me. Two guys next to me gloating to each other about how they brutally beat their wife and kids. What? Okay, then they went on to discuss what would be a reasonable cause to murder them. Like if they cheated or stole from you or something. They were giggling like school children. They definitely did not realize I spoke Spanish and probably thought I couldn't understand them. Oh my goodness me. OP says they were about 14 or 15 when this happened, so there was no way that they were ever going to report them or anything. But my word, what a disgusting pair of gents. I mean, I say gents, lunatics. I overheard a passenger passionately arguing with their seatmates about the correct way to eat a slice of pizza with chopsticks. Now, guys, get in the comments down below. Let me know what is the correct way, because I've never tried it, but after this, I know what I'm having for dinner, and I know how I'm eating it. I was sitting next to a dad and his daughter, who was about 5. He was super cool and chatting away while his daughter started talking to me. She was so sweet and bubbly, and gave way too much information to me. She says something along the lines of, "I went to my grandma and grandpa's house, and they're married. I wish my dad would marry my mum, but they can't talk to each other. But I always wish they were married like my grandma and grandpa." Her dad would have been horrified, and I was just sad. Oh, that is really quite tough. A 5-year-old boy once said, "Dad, can you ask them to pull over so I can go to the toilet?" If only that's how it worked. You know what? The one thing I would say is at least this kid didn't get up like the woman before and scream, "I'm gonna poop myself." That would have been even worse. There was this kid behind me that kept telling her dad that she lost her tooth, and the dad was disgruntledly trying to find it. Some guy nearby said, "Hey, kid, I hear if you lose your tooth on the plane, the tooth fairy gives you $50. To which the dad replied, "Hey, look, sweetie, the tooth fairy decided to sit next to us on the plane." Very, very good from both of these men, I've got to say. A guy coming home early to bust a cheating wife. Oh my word. He was on the phone with a friend or family who told him the other guy was at his house and they didn't expect him back until the next week. The drama. I would have loved to be next to him on that. Oh my gosh. Not even speaking to him about it, but just like eavesdropping on that phone conversation. I mean, it's terrible, but it would be unbelievable, let's be honest. I am a pilot for a major airline. Decades ago, I was running for a deadhead flight home and managed to snag the last seat. A mother and young daughter was seated next to me. Halfway through the flight, the mother, seeing my disheveled look after flying all day, asked if I wanted her daughter's PB&J sandwich that she wasn't going to eat. I politely declined, but she insisted, and that was the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich I'd ever had. That is wholesome. Now, this isn't crazy, but it's definitely the most fun I've had on a plane. This guy introduced himself as Caribbean Boy, chatted with nearly everyone on the plane, asked them what their plans were, complimented everyone, then started singing Bob Marley type stuff. Wow, what a legend. He had most of the passengers clapping along, everyone was smiling, most charismatic man I ever met. Now that is just the sort of guy that you just want to be around in general. What a man. Nothing too crazy, but a couple in their 50s who were all over each other. Okay, sorry, I've just read on here. Like tongues in ears, hands in pants, etc. I thought you were going to say like kissing or, you know, like cuddling, whatever. Tongues in ears and hands in pants on a plane is a bit mad. They were busy working out the logistics of their next getaway. They were both cheating on their partners and laughing at how gullible their SOs were, believing another business trip would come up so soon. Great. I was sitting next to a father with his small child. The child wouldn't stop hopping around until the father said, "Sit still and be a good boy, or the plane will crash because of you and we'll end up dying." Never seen a kid so quiet before. Now, I don't know if that's a good idea. Yes, in the short term, in the immediate term, it makes your kids stop. But in the long term, I feel like your child is more than likely to have a pretty big fear of flying, or at least getting up during a flight, even when the seatbelt sign is off. I've got a buddy who's flown many, many times and is comfortable with it. But he said that one time he heard an older, in her 80s lady, talking about how easy it would be for her to sneak a bomb on the plane. She apparently went into detail with her gals about how exactly she'd do it. He said he didn't really worry because it sounded like she was joking, but it made him uneasy because of how simple she made it sound. I would actually kind of like to hear what her plan was. In my opinion, I feel like it would be incredibly difficult, right? How are you getting that through security? I don't know, but hey, kind of a weird thing to even think about, let alone speak about on a plane. Jesus. Is that what happens when you get to 80 years old? You just start going crazy and saying, you know what? I'm going to die anyway soon. This is how I'd kill everyone on a plane. I hope you guys know. Anyway, before takeoff, after the doors were closed, a kid of about 6 or 7 years old towards the front of the plane stood up on his seat, faced the rest of the plane, and yelled, "We're all going to die!" while his parents tried to pull him back down. He's not wrong. I agree. He's just not wrong. This guy knows. This guy knows. Oh, I got this one. Passenger W is struggling to get his luggage into the overhead compartment, and passenger E, seated next to me, starts getting upset. W's carry-on clearly doesn't fit. E speaks up, saying to be careful because his luggage is there. The flight attendant comes over and says that passenger W needs to check his bag. W grows increasingly disturbed, but it works out. Then W says to the flight attendant, "I'm sorry, it's just that I haven't taken my medication. I get so nervous with all these body bags on board. You know, I have body parts in my luggage." What? Passenger E turns to me and says, "Did you hear that? I just have a laptop in my luggage." Also, what? That's a bit of a strange interaction all in there, really, isn't it? Like, I'd never expect passenger W to ever say that, but then passenger E is like, "Oh, I've got a laptop, not body parts." Like, they seem all right with it. Weird. I mean, all I can think is that the person just had, you know, schizophrenia or something, or just something wrong with them. That's what they're talking about with the meds. But yeah, interesting interaction. The lady beside me told me that she was farting a lot, and she didn't care about telling me because she wouldn't see me again. You know what? What's a legend? Again, like, fair play. Fair play to her. She has that much confidence in herself to know that that is absolutely true, what she's saying, and to just be okay with it. Amazing. I sat next to a college guy once who, while drinking some alcoholic beverages, started crying and telling me he killed his best friend in a drunk driving accident. Because he had good lawyers, he got off without jail time. He was sobbing and drinking. When we landed, I made sure he was not driving. Oh God. This is the thing. Like, this is what I've always thought. If you commit a crime and you're a good person, and even if you get off with it, like this guy has, it's going to be on your mind forever. And surely you're going to know in your heart of hearts that you shouldn't have got away with it, and that you should do the time. And therefore, I think if you ever commit a crime, you have to do the time anyway. Because then at least when it's over, you know that you've done your time and you've had your punishment for the thing you did. This is going to be on this guy's mind for the rest of his life, clearly, and he's very messed up because of it. The pilot accidentally left the intercom switch on. The whole plane heard him say, "Oh, that's weird." Nothing else. The plane took off amid varying levels of anxiety throughout the cabin. I'm here to tell the tale today, so thankfully it wasn't too weird. Oh, the anxiety that would just riddle you throughout that flight would be disgusting. I know that I've been on flights in my life where things have definitely gone wrong, but they just don't tell you, do they? Because there's no point, really, unless it's super, super serious. But hearing this, even if it's just like, it could be anything, right? It could just be, you know, he saw something on his phone. You know, a little meme. What a weird meme. It could be anything. But no, that is going to be playing on your mind until you land, and maybe even afterwards. Horrific. What a way to end the vid. And there we go, guys. That is going to do it for this one. Really hope you enjoyed it. I love a bit of AskReddit personally. I just love seeing varying things to one crazy question. I mean, the difference between certain responses here is just mind-boggling, really. Some very wholesome stuff, some nice stuff, and then some downright disturbing stuff that would put me offline for a long, long time. As always, get your comments in down below. What is the craziest thing that you've ever heard on a flight? I want to hear your thoughts.